King Alcohol. Introduce our speaker today, who's Jay. He's come over from California to speak with us. I've heard Jay a few times now, and I was so excited when this meeting started to ask him to come and speak with us. And take it for as long as you want, Jay, up to the hour. We'd love to hear you. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you.
So 40 minutes about?
45, 50.
Okay, shoot. Okay, well. Hi, I'm Jay. I'm an alcoholic. It's good to be here. Good to be alive. Good to be sober another day. I love Alcoholics Anonymous. So if you're new, that probably makes you want to hurl, You're probably saying, good for you. Isn't that wonderful for you? Because I didn't believe anybody when I got sober until they started sharing. And then I saw God, man. That's all I can say. So if you're new, welcome to Alcoholics Anonymous. And I'll tell you, you don't ever have to drink again if you don't want to. You don't ever have to drink or use again if you don't want to. And just so you know where you stand with me, I got 32 and a half years. So if you have more time than me, you're better. Okay, you're better than me. And if you have less time, listen up, because I'm going to teach you about life and AA and you'll, I'm just kidding. Makes me sick even saying it. It'd be great if that's true, but it's not, because I know people who are 40 years sober who I wouldn't send a sick cat to if they were a vet. And I know people who have 90 days sober who are working a better program than I am right now. I mean, they're on fire for AA. They're so happy to wake up clean and sober, to not be hungover, to not be filled with shame of what they did or who they did the night before. They have hope. Some of you old timers probably remember in the day they used to say, it's nice not to wake up in the morning and check my car's fender for blood, because I can't remember how I even got home. And now we just call the Uber driver, say, where was I? And have you found my pants? I'm missing my pants. Maybe it's just me. I don't know. I did a lot of drugs, did a lot of alcohol. I'm from Fresno, so I'm sorry. Fresno, I don't know where the asshole of your country is or your city is, but Fresno is the asshole of California. Virginia and Chico agrees. Chico's not far from the asshole, I will tell you that much. I'm just saying. There's armpits everywhere. And but and then so I got sober in Fresno, so I'm ever so grateful for that. And I love AA. When I got sober in Fresno, it was on January 7th, 1989 was my first AA meeting. And my life was going pretty good on the outside. I mean, you wouldn't know that I had a problem. I lived in a very nice garage in Fresno. I lived there for 3.5 years. I had, you're laughing, but I had carpet in there and I had cable TV. I was the assistant manager of Subway sandwiches, the big one. You probably know it, the one on First and McKinley. I don't feel like I'm bragging. I was also the actor of the year at Fresno City Community College for 3 years in a row at a 2-year college. Doesn't sound so good when I say it like that, but that's what happened. So I was killing the game. I was like, I hit rock top, and so you could see how hard it would be for a stepper like me to walk into an AA meeting and have to be with people like you. I mean, some of you have pink hair, I mean, Jules has pink hair. I mean, I had a mullet when I came in, like a really nice mullet, where it was a bleached, it was black on the sides and it was like sheet white on the top. And it was like, It looked like a reverse skunk. It was in back then though. It wasn't in. But people knew me when they met me because they could see me coming. It was so strange. They knew I was new before I even said a word in my first meeting. So I robbed a lot of houses. I was physically violent. There were 3 guys I put in the hospital just through fighting. I'm not a real fighter guy. I mean, I'm trained through 2nd degree black belt, but back then I was just scared, all the time scared. Always so terrified. I can't even believe I came to AA. I was so scared. And when I came to AA, you know, I called central office and she said, Alcoholics Anonymous, can you hold? And I said, yeah. And she clicked back over and she said, I'm going to need you to hold a little longer. Is that okay? And I said, yeah. And then she clicked back over and she says, I'm so sorry, sweetheart. We have a really sick guy on the other line. Can you wait just another 15 seconds? I'm trying to get him directions. And I was crying. And I said, lady, I got nowhere else to go. And she said, oh, she must have thought I was an out-of-town visitor or something, but who visits Fresno? And I said, she said, I'll take you right now. And she said, are you sober today? Because that's how you people talk when I'm new. Are you sober today? Sober? You wonderful. You shit rainbows and unicorns and stuff. And my poop wasn't doing so good at the end of my drinking and using. So I said, well, that's kind of borderline none of your business. But yeah, I'm sober. That's why I'm so happy. She said, oh, me too. I said, oh yeah, how long are you sober? She said, I got 8 years. And I just thought, pathetic. How pathetic. 8 years and still working the phones. You'd think you'd get your shit together and get the hell out of AA and graduate. Now, I've never been to a meeting. I've never met anybody who's sober. When I went to my first meeting, they say there's big books. I saw the big book. I wasn't impressed. I've seen bigger books. This is our big book. And then you just see this little tiny, Jesus. These people overshot the mark. And she sent me to a meeting. And I went to a men's stag. It was a Wednesday night. It was called the Survivors Group. And I walked in and I got there early because that's the kind of alcoholic I am. I show up early even when I'm loaded and drinking. I leave late. I do things right because I got a secret, man. I'm a total drunk. And I don't want anybody to see any weakness in me. Like, so that's why I'm always on time. That's why I had good credit. That's why, you know, I did every dish in my sink. I made my bed every day, you know. I mean, my bed is made right now. I didn't make it, but my wife made it. I'm so busy being unemployed. She's good at it. So makes her feel like she has some sort of control in the world. The bed's made. And a guy came up to me as people were coming in the meeting and he leaned in and he goes, can you read how it works? I go, yeah, can you? And he was like, I can, but I'm asking you to do it. And I go, well, all right then, dude. It's defensive. Somebody told me that when I was new. They go, Jay, you're really defensive. I go, what the fuck do you mean by that? And I took the format out into another room and I proofread it. And I got to tell you, it looked pretty good. Written for a 4th grader, which was perfect. And And when they called on me to read, I had been practicing. I proofread it 3 times like it was going to be an audition or something. And I had been studying iambic pentameter, which is Shakespeare. So for any of you who don't understand that, people from Fresno or Chico. So I read it like this. Rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. And I swear to God, I read it like that all the way through. And people were going, oh my God, what's happening? They were coming unglued. And I was kept reading and I didn't understand what was happening. So I started adding shit, because wouldn't you? 1, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol. That's why I'm here, right, Hank? AA, man. That's our gang signs right there, AA. But they're out there and we're in here, so good for us. How do we do this? You know? And people were just going, make it stop, make it stop, make it stop. And I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I had been in AA like 9 minutes. And then once the show was over, this is really true, this happened. Once the show was over, the meeting started. And I sat there and I listened to these 14 toothless tattooed deer hunters share. And they were so real. They were so much better on this day than I had ever been in any day of my life. And I remember nodding my head. I remember just nodding my head. Yeah, me too, me too. And I'm just going to tell you, I never nodded my head. I never agreed with anybody on anything, ever. I fought everything. This wall could be white right next to me, and somebody comes up and says, what a beautiful white wall. And I'll go, nah, it's more tan. And they'll go, well, it's white. And I go, no, it's tan. Even though it's white, I'm going to fucking talk you into the fact that it's tan, just because I just need chaos in my life all the time. I can never just be okay with disagreeing that the wall is white. Every single corner I had to make of my life difficult, because I just didn't know how to be here. And alcohol is the only thing that ever worked for me. Alcohol is the only thing that ever made me feel like I could step out easy, like I could breathe, like I could ask a girl to dance, that I could be funny, that I could be tough, that I could breathe, man. I don't know if I was born an alcoholic, but once I took my first drink, another alcoholic was born, because it worked. And these guys started sharing, and I was overwhelmed. And I said, God, the sharing part of the meetings is so much better than the reading shit. This is so much better. The reading part sucks. So I'm already assessing all of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I got my hand up, and they're not calling on me because of the how it works thing. No, you had your shot and you completely blew it. I don't think anybody will ever call on you again. You're blacklisted. So I interrupted. I go, wait, before you call on somebody else, I've had my hand up for a while. And those 2 guys had their hands up first, and then me. And then those 2 guys, and you called on those guys first. And the guy goes, yeah, go ahead, kid. And he called me kid, and that was bullshit, because I was 20. And I had this whole speech written up in my head that I was going to say to win you over, so you would like me, because that was my first drug of choice, was your approval, by far. I could hate your guts, and if you didn't like me, I'd still try to get you to like me. Sell my soul to the devil for it, even if you didn't even matter in my life. So I had this speech written up. And then I said, I'm Jay, I'm an alcoholic. And it just echoed in the room. And this was a closed meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. You got to be an alcoholic. And when I read how it works, no one said, what's your name? What's your name? What's your name? Say your name. Say your name. Don't you start reading. You say your name first. I'm Jay. Okay, what are you? It better be good. I'm an alcoholic. Okay, Okay, let's get back to the topic of being not judgmental. But no one did that to me. They let me read how it works without saying my name. I had never been there before. I didn't know what I was doing. But as soon as I said I was an alcoholic, it just echoed in the room. And I had this feeling like, you better tell the truth, man, because they can see right through you. Don't tell your bullshit story. Don't read them your resume. They don't care. So I just started talking. I said, my dad used to beat me when I was a kid. And I felt the energy shift in the room. And I got in a fist fight with my dad last night. And my knuckles are bloody. And they were. And I said, but the thing is my dad wasn't in the room. I haven't seen him in 3 years. It was just me punching walls in the garage. I drank 3 pints of Southern Comfort last night. It didn't get me where I need to be. I'm starting to feel everything. Talked about my mom. Talked about how me and my girlfriend fight all the time. I tried to negotiate with him. I tried to say, you see, I can't be an alcoholic. I can't be that, because my whole goal in life is to not be my dad. So my dad was a real alcoholic, and he drank Southern Comfort too. And he smoked the cigarettes I smoked. And now I'm doing and saying the things that he used to do and say to me. And so, like, we're gonna have to work something out here, because I can't anything but that. So thanks. And then the hands slowly went up around the room. Spiritual awakening began. I felt God move into the room. I didn't know what was happening. And these men slowly raised their hands. I felt all of their energy completely move to me. Everything in the room completely changed. All focus was on me. I know now what was happening. These guys were trying to save my life. Guy said, boy, Jay, you talked about your dad whipping you when you were a kid. Man, I can relate to that. That's some tough stuff, but man, you're in the right place, kid. You keep coming back. And I was like, okay. Another guy said, boy, you talked about your mom controlling you. Man, I'm 50 years old. My mom still tries to control me. And we all started laughing. He said, but if you make it to midnight tonight without a drink or a drug, you're a winner in our book, Jay. So that night I stayed up till midnight to feel what it felt like to be a winner. They gathered around me at the end of the meeting. They had a list of phone numbers for me to call. They asked me this, can you make it to the next meeting without a drink? And I said, well, when's the next meeting? And they said, it's tomorrow night in this room at 7:30. And I looked at them and I meant this. I said, yes, I can. And the next night I showed up and they added women to the meeting. They let women come, which was very nice of them. Very good thing for me. I didn't know you could do that. They were Fresno women, but shit, I'll take them. And it was a even better meeting. It was gentler, it was kinder. The women were spectacular to me. I've gotten as much from women in AA as I have from men, period. As speakers, as friends, as confidants, people to hang out with. You people can do no wrong with me. And when I showed up to that meeting, some guy was like, hey, you're Jay, right? Yeah. And I go, yeah. I met you last night. Hi, yeah, yeah. You go, hey, you guys, this is the guy. This is the guy from last night. And the guy comes up and goes, oh, you're Jay. I heard about your share, man. I heard it was really powerful. Well, welcome back. How many days do you have? And I go, huh? How long are you sober? I go, what do you mean? He goes, did you drink yesterday? And I go, no. He goes, have you drank anything today? And I said, no. And he goes, so you got 2 days? And I go, yes. And he says, hey, this guy's got 2 days. This guy's got 2 days. And then they started saying, wow, that's great, man. 2 days. Phew, how'd you do it? And I go, well, I just didn't drink, you know. I was strong like bull, you know, and tomorrow I may go for 3, you know. And they gave me value to my days. Whereas I see newcomers come in and they say, I only have 2 days. And I'm like, I only have 2 days. What are you talking about? That's awesome. That's awesome, 2 days. You know how hard it is to get 2 days? The only thing better than 2 days is 3 days. That's awesome. Somebody around here with 1 day right now wants to know how you did it. Seriously. And they're going to listen to you. They're not going to listen to me. You got man, I'm so glad you're here. The reason I do that in every meeting, the reason I do this, the reason I clap is because I want you to see that I love you and that I think you're doing great. I want you to know that through these little boxes on Zoom that you have value, that you matter, and that you staying clean and sober is a big deal. At 5.5 years sober, my higher power left me for another guy. Son of a bitch. And I really loved this girl a little. You know, I didn't want to be with her anymore. But I don't want to be alone, because when I'm alone, I'm in bad company. So I lovingly hated her. And when she left me for another guy, we were together for 1.5 years. And he was going to open a cell phone store. I was like, I remember telling her, cell phones ain't going to make it. They're too big. They cost too much money. People, it's a phase. It's a phase. I was wrong on that one, but so what? Didn't work out between them, which is very satisfying. And I fell apart. I completely fell apart. I hit my second surrender. I lost 15 pounds in 2 weeks. I was sponsoring a ton of guys, going to a ton of meetings, had a great relationship, I thought, with God, followed sponsored direction. It worked all 12 steps. Business was good. And when she left, everybody who ever left me left again. And my sponsor told me to write a letter to my dad. And he says, you'll write a letter to your dad and we'll just read it to each other. And he goes, and you got it. My sponsor is Jim Miller. If anybody knows him, September, he'll have 60 years sober. And he pretty much saved my life. And he said, and he's a minister too. He goes, you got a filthy mouth. Write it with your filthy mouth. And I said, okay, thank you. I said, the letter sounded something like this, excuse the French, but I am French. Dad, you stupid son of a bitch, I hate your fucking guts. You left when I was 7. You said you'd come back. You never came back. You used to pick me up and throw me into walls. You looked at me like you hated me. I watched you punch Mom. I walked in on you with other women in my bed when I was 5. I played all those sports, all those years, and every game I looked on the sideline and you were not there for any of them. And I'll never forgive you for saying that I could come swim at your apartment. And I stood out in front of our house all day with my towel like an idiot. And you never showed up. I was just a boy. And I read it to my sponsor and he goes, that was really good. And I felt like I had just had a baby, because men can really know what it feels like to have a baby. If my wife heard me say that, she'd pop me in the back of the head. Yes, you should. And he said, you left something out, Jay. Write this down. And I said, okay. He said, and with all of this, Dad, I still love you. And I'll be damned, it was true. I wrote it down. And he said, and I've been waiting by the phone all these years for you to call. And today I'm going to stop waiting. And you're free now, Dad. And I wrote that down. And that was the day I grew up in Alcoholics Anonymous. That was the day I stopped putting women in my life that were unavailable to love me back. I stopped having friendships with people that weren't there for me. No judgment. I was just trying to work out my issues with my dad, with the adults in my life. You know, I only knew what I knew. And I took contrary action and I started changing things. At 7.5 years sober, I realized I'm probably going to be one of these old farts around here with 40 years. And, you know, I just didn't want to be the guy with the leather bound big book with chips hanging from his neck, a big old fat belly. And, you know, and everybody walks up to him and says, who's that? Oh, that's the sponsor. Ooh, wow. Everybody gathers around him. What does he do? He's got the big book memorized backwards in Greek. Wow. Watch this. Hey, sponsor Jay, where does it talk about blah, blah, blah? Well, that's on page 63, Sally Sue, bottom paragraph, third sentence. I just didn't want to be that guy that goes home alone and he's right. We lack the ability to form a true partnership with another human being, our literature says. And I knew that was me. Because every time I got into a relationship with a woman, it was awful. The first hours are great. I mean, like there's sex, we're buying furniture, we're getting to know each other's last names. We're buying cats. We went to go get a cat, but that cat will be lonely. So we get another cat. So there's two cats, so they have each other to play with. All this shit really happened. We're buying sofas that match. I don't even know our middle name. We've already had sex like 12 times. And then it ends in restraining orders. You know, like do not come near this address 300 feet away, or meters, I should say. Just ends rough. I just didn't know how to do it. And my sponsor suggested I start talking to married couples in AA. Start talking to married couples and find out how they did it. Ask them. Stop hanging around with your single buddies and asking them how to have a relationship because they don't know shit because they're single. Like, hey man, you know, here's how you get a girl, Jay. You got to shove her around a little bit, you know. You know, when she calls, don't call her back, man. Makes them want you more, man. And then they call me. Like, yeah, that's the kind of woman I want. Give me a freaking break. I started talking to the married couple. I mean, and taking advice from a single guy on how to have a relationship is like sitting in a jail cell with your cellmate and he's explaining how to do the perfect crime with you. Wait a minute, you're in here with me, asshole. I don't ask a drunk person how to stay sober. I just don't. And I talked to one yesterday on the phone and it was heartbreaking. And 2 days before that, I talked to a guy that I sponsor that had 1 year and 4 months sober. He was doing great. He took about a week off and lost everything. Beautiful man. It's heartbreaking. So I hold on to my sobriety. If you're new in this room, get yourself a date. Get yourself a sobriety date and protect it and guard it with your life. Like it's going to take an army to get my sobriety date away from me. It means that much to me. I want to be clean and sober. I want to be in AA. And even if you don't want to, you can still be sober until you start learning the lyrics to the song. You can hear the melody. It's going to take a minute. I mean, I just told you how my first AA meeting went. You know, I knew it all. And now at 32.5 years, I realize that I've made a mess out of many things in my life and I've made so many mistakes and I still do. And I have so many flaws. So many flaws of pride and greed and lust and gluttony and sloth. I've got them all, man. I've lied, I've cheated, I've stolen in my sobriety, but I didn't drink. I didn't drink or use no matter what. So as long as I don't drink, I got a shot and I got redemption. I got a chance. And our program is designed for that. Our program has 10, 11, and 12 to clean that shit up. It knows that we're imperfect. I mean, how great were these founding fathers and mothers for us? It's pretty amazing. So my sponsor said, start talking to married couples. So I talked to all 3 married couples worldwide in Alcoholics Anonymous. And they were wonderful. And they gave me advice and they gave me suggestions. And I started dating, and they told me to cut a lot of stuff out, you know, like stop sleeping with them right away. You know, it doesn't work. And I was like, but that sounds hard. And they go, we don't care how you feel. Like, you're asking for something different. It's not going to feel good. I was like, oh, okay. And it's not like I was even that good at sex. I mean, when I was drinking, my nickname was Stallion, which I called myself. And then when I got sober, I was like a pariah. Like, women wouldn't come near me. I'd start to talk to them. It's like God was protecting me and them from me. And I just remember telling my sponsor at 7.5 years, I want to be married. I want to have kids. I want a shot at this thing. I don't want to be alone for the rest of my life. And if I have to, I will. But he goes, and you've got to go to any lengths, man. So I started talking to married couples and I started dating. And I asked this one girl out, and we were on like a 3rd date in this place in West Hollywood called La Canta Minetta. And it's a 5-star restaurant. It's got a wine list that thick. It's really, really nice. And I'm from Fresno, so you know I got class. And she picked the restaurant. So we go in there, and the maitre d' guy and I knew each other. We knew each other. Like, I said, I know you. He goes, I know you too. Where do I know you from? We're sitting there going, Easton Gym? No. The 3rd Street Promenade? You hang out there in Santa Monica? No. He goes, are you a friend of Bill W.'s? I go, yeah, of course that's what it always is. I said, what's your name? And he goes, Bill. And I said, hey, Bill, I'm Jay, and this is Jamie. Nice to meet you. And he sat us down. He was our food server. He says, what can I get you guys? We have water, soda. We have some juices. And she looked at him like, the fuck is wrong with you? She goes, can I have a glass of Merlot? And he goes, yeah. And he looked at me, are you in or are you out? Because I don't give a shit. And I said, I'll take the Diet Coke 96. And he goes, got it. And he walked away. And she leaned in and she goes, all right, how do you know that guy? That was some weird shit that just happened. I said, oh, we have mutual friends. And she goes, no, I come here all the time. They don't whittle off a water list and a juice list. It's just not what they do here. And I had just gotten to the point in my sobriety where I stopped reading my 4th step on the 1st date. Because these people told me not to do it. Like, here comes the scroll. So here's the things to watch out for. My dad used to beat me when I was a kid. I know the odds are that I'm probably going to beat you too, but I got to tell you, I'm not. I still get pretty angry, I'll tell you that much. I get really, really mad, but I've got restraint of tongue and pen now. My dad left when I was a kid. He said that he would come back. He never came back. So I've had some abandonment issues to deal with. Where are you going? Are you going to the bathroom? You want me to go too? Because I'm all better now. There's not a window in there, is there? You know. So secure. Oh, and also I'm in AA, you know, AA, the 12 and 12, those people. So that's number 1 in my life. So you need to know that right off the bat. It's number 1. Nothing gets me between me and my sobriety, which every woman wants to hear on the 1st date, that something else is number 1. I can never get a 2nd date. So I stopped doing that shit. And I started asking, so tell me about your day. It took me about a year to care. But it was a great exercise for a selfish and self-centered person. And she said, "Yeah, but how do you know that guy?" And I said, I'm in AA. I know him from AA." And she goes, "Oh, so you're sober?" And I said, "I am." And she goes, "Well, this is our third date. Why didn't you tell me?" And I said, "Because I really like you. I like you a lot. And I'm trying to get to know you." And I said, I've had not so good luck in relationships. And I'm trying to do things differently. And rather than sitting here talking about myself, I wanted to get to know you." And she goes, "Are you embarrassed about it?" And I was like, "Actually, no, I'm not. It's the greatest thing I've ever done in my life. If I wasn't 7.5 years sober, I would not be on a date with a lady like you. I can promise you that." That's a get laid line right there. That is a get laid line, and smooth as snot on a doorknob. And I still held out. I still held out. Um, I was not going to sleep with her. And when she was making it okay for me to sleep with her as we were dating, I didn't, because I was afraid that I was going to ruin something that was finally going the way that maybe God wanted it to go. And that was 24 and a half years ago. And that's my wife now. And her name's Jamie, and I'm Jay. And we have a 20-year-old son, Julian, and an 18-year-old son, Jaden, and a 14-year-old daughter, Josie, and we're the J5. I have what I always wanted. I have a family. Between my wife's parents and my parents, there's 14 divorces. Just between her mom and dad and my mom and dad, 14. So that'll give you an idea of how the odds are stacked against us. And it's been tough. And I'll tell you this, AA is tougher. Drugs and alcohol rip families to shreds, and Alcoholics Anonymous and Al-Anon put families back together. It's just what it is. And I don't know what I owe you for that gift, but I'll tell you this: the last 5 years have been like really tough because both of my sons are drug addicts, and they've been in and out of rehabs. And on May 6th of 2019, I was the back of my house at 11:30 at night on this one side of the house that we never go to because the boys' rooms are over there. And I noticed the bathroom light was on, and I knocked on the door, and my son didn't answer. And I knocked on the door again, and my son didn't answer. And I started screaming, and I broke the door off the hinges, and my son was on the floor and purple and not breathing. His gums had turned completely purple. His lips, he had OD'd on fentanyl. And I got on top of him, and the 911 person started telling me how to do CPR, and I didn't know how to do it. And I leaned over, and I was yelling in his ear, "Jaden, please don't leave me. Please don't leave me. Please just hang on. Just hang on. I love you. I love you." And I thought he was going to die. And I just wanted to. I heard once that when people are dying, they can still hear you. And I just wanted him to know that I loved him. And the firemen came in, and they shot him in the side of the neck. The first 2 times didn't take, and the second time he came to, he was 2 minutes from dead. And and then my other son, who's got it even worse, is detoxing off of Suboxone in our house right now. He's been in and out of 20 centers. Our family was so like picture perfect. One of those annoying families that would like almost, I mean, we didn't do it because we're not that annoying, but wear the same sweater, all of us, including the dog, you know. And as soon as drugs and alcohol entered, the day it entered, our family's never been the same. It just destroyed what we were, destroyed them. So I look at my life a little bit differently now. I'm grateful for our sister program. I'm grateful for all of you for being there when I fall apart in meetings. I just can't hold it together anymore. And you've done a great job with me. You should all be proud. You've done a great job. Because I didn't drink or use. And I go back to the night of January 7th, 1989. I went to my great grandmother's kitchen after my first AA meeting. And for some reason, I went in her kitchen and there was nobody in there. And I kneeled on my knees, which I wasn't doing at all. Well, not for prayer. And I said this prayer. I said, God, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, but let me tell you something. I like that meeting thing, and I'm going to go again tomorrow night. And it better be real. You better not be screwing with me. You better not be like putting something in my life that you're going to rip away from me again. Don't play games with me. Don't fuck with me. But if you can take away drugs and alcohol, I'll do whatever you want. Just let this one thing be real for once. And I just now imagine God sitting next to me all these years later. And I imagine him just saying, I hear that you want me now. And that's cool. But here's the deal. I can take away the drugs and alcohol and your obsession for them. I can do that. But here's the deal. 30 years from now, you're going to have a wife and 3 kids, and 2 of your kids are going to have it worse than you got it right now. And the pain is going to be 10 times more than what you have. And what I'm going to need is I'm going to need somebody to be sober to be that dad. Sober, not a drunk dad, a sober dad. And I'm going to need a sober husband for that wife because she's going to be falling apart too. Will you take the deal? And I probably would have said, is my wife hot at all? Is she hot? And God would have said, she's smoking. She's a smoker. She could make a freight train take a dirt road on a rainy night just to get to her. I said, okay, good. I'll take the deal. Well, it's 30 years later, 32 years later, and I'm here. And my deal with God is that he removed my number one problem, that I would stay clean and sober and try to be of service to him and my fellows. And my fellows happens to be some days my wife and my kids. I sponsor about 42 guys. It's great because I never hear from them. And I go to a lot of meetings. I'm on the board for Radford Hall, and trying to do what I can to be of service to something that saved a lot of lives. And I go to a lot of meetings. I don't know what I owe you, man. What do I owe you for what you've given me? That I show up to some meetings, I sponsor some guys, take a newcomer to a meeting. The fact is I'm in such debt to you that I can never ever repay you for what you've given me. So I'm just here making payments, man. There was a church in the 17th century that burned to the ground. And the head of the church was a very self-righteous guy, but he wanted the church to be rebuilt and all of the stained glass windows to be put back in for their big Easter event. And there were 7 stained glass windows, and there were 3 on each side and 1 in the middle. And they were going to rebuild the church in like a month. And they had a deadline, and they could find 6 stained glass window makers to do the ones on the side, but they couldn't find a 7th one, and he was behind, and he needed to get it built. And he put bulletins all over the villages. And this homeless man came up to him and said, excuse me, I saw your bulletin and I can do it. And he was homeless and he smelled. He was us. And the head of the church looked him up and down and said, no, we're serious about this. Thanks, but no thanks. He says, I'll do it. He goes, all I ask for is that you give me a place to stay for the month and food. And that's all I ask for. And I'll do it for free. And he says, yeah. No. About a week goes by. It's getting crunch time. project is going great, except the one stained glass window. So the guy got desperate. The head of the church went out and found this man. This was tattered and torn and smelled awful. And he says, "Were you serious?" He goes, "Yes, I used to be a stained glass maker." He says, "Okay." And he goes, "All I ask for is that 3 things. Give me a place to stay, give me food, and let me be the one to unveil it." He said, "Fine, fine, fine." So the old man went to work, and their big day, their big celebration came, and the church was full. It was full on the outside. The stained glass windows were exposed except the middle one in the center. It still had canvases over it. And the old man was finishing up the last corners. And the head of the church goes, "Come on, old man, come on. Will you hurry up?" And he says, "It's done." And he unveiled it. And everyone was in awe. Women cried, children cried. It was the most beautiful stained glass window anybody had ever seen. And the head of the church was humbled. And he looked at the old man and he said, "I just realized that you never asked for materials. How did you make this?" He said, "Well, I used to come to this church. I used to sit in the back. And no one paid attention to me, and I understand why. I know what I am. But I pray to the same God that you do. And when the church burned down, my church burned down, and you took all of the broken pieces from the glass before and you threw them to the side. I made this with all the broken pieces." And that's what we are in Alcoholics Anonymous. We're a bunch of broken pieces. And when we come together, it's the greatest thing that's ever been in my life. And for that, I'm grateful, and all that I have, and all that I am, and all that I hope to be. I got here 32 years, 5 months, and 4 days ago today. So Sarah, I love you, and thank you for all you do for AA. I really, really appreciate what you do on that site on Facebook. God bless and thanks.
Wow, thank you very much, Jay. Okay, we've got